Hello, everyone. I'm Mivy. You've probably seen me around, or maybe you haven't actually. I'm one of the facilitators and hosts at Uncommon. I do some of the gaming sessions, so like Roblox, Minecraft, other ones that I probably can't remember right now. I literally just did a gamers club actually. And yeah, just little bits and bobs like this. And I also host this role models chat. So yeah, I'm very excited today, just in case. These role model talks, they're designed to kind of inspire and empower the neurodivergent community with just showcasing different role models, like of people who are sharing their experiences, maybe some challenges and also their triumphs. Tanya, would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. Thanks, Mivi. Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya. I'm 27 years of age. I struggle to remember my age because I only turned 27 2 weeks ago. I'm from London and I am very happy to be here today to talk a little bit about my journey up until this point through school and through work as a neurodivergent individual. Uh, just by way of background, I work as a public servant. I work for the UK government and I mainly work with senior leaders and ministers in designing and applying policies to the way that the UK as a society works. In my free time, I am an aspiring writer of both poetry. I perform my poetry at open
Mm.
mics. And I also really enjoy gaming and also learning about mental health as a topic and hopefully sharing some of this as in this talk with you today. Cheers.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I feel like we have a lot of common interests, which is very fun as well.
We do.
Yes. So to start with, and I always ask this, but I'm always quite interested. So you mentioned that you were late diagnosed. So
That's
of
right.
course a lot of this will be like in hindsight, looking back. What were some things that you noticed about yourself kind of growing up?
Um, Something that relates directly to neurodivergence that struck me from the very beginning, and for a very long time, I didn't actually have the language. The words that I could use to describe it was on the social front. I felt quite out of place where I was raised and where I went to school. Um, for information, I was born and raised in Romania, spent the first 18 years of my life there, and I moved to the UK in 2016 to go to university here and eventually get a job here. Um, in I attended a pretty kind of regular sort of public school, nothing really out of the ordinary there. It was in my local area. I struggled to fit in and I struggled to um, build relationships,
Mm.
friendships with people there. It was quite difficult to identify what to talk about with people. I would often really I would find it quite challenging to understand other people's emotions and also to be able to relate to those and be able to meet people where they are in regards to their own experiences. I didn't find all that many friends. It was only much later in life, the friends that I did make in school and who have remained my friends up until this point, it turns out everyone was neurodivergent. So in a way, even though we were not really understanding one another, only just a tiny bit, we also kind of understood why we felt misunderstood. I was raised in an environment that didn't have a very um, strong understanding of neurodivergence, and for me, it went undiagnosed. I believe for a very long time because I was actually doing incredibly well at school, and I didn't need any adult in my life, teacher or parent, to try and keep me focused on task or try to kind of get me to comply with a lot of the rules and the structures. For me, it was a very easy thing to do, to resort to just get a directive, a task, an order from an adult and just go with it. And as far as I'm concerned, it's rather unfortunate that this is prized as seen as good behavior of a child.
Mm.
Whereas for me, it very much was a bit of a survival mechanism because I wasn't getting on with kids my age. I found it very easy to talk to adults and to get anything that I would get from an adult, I would instantly agree with, instantly go with. And to adults, that made me quite an easy child, and really have to stress the quotation marks here, because
Mhm.
I was just compliant. I would listen. But for me, it very much was a case of survival. It was the only thing that seemed to work for me and to get me the approval and the love and appreciation that I sought but couldn't get from others. So I clung on to that as strongly as I could.
Yeah, no, that is very relatable. I I used to move between schools quite a lot, and I just remember
Mhm.
at some point it was so difficult to make friends that I just hang out with,
Yeah.
you know, the teachers that would watch all the kids during break times
Yes.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
That was me, just hanging out with them. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Now I find it more difficult to talk to, I was about to say to
Mm.
talk to adults, but I am an adult. But
I know what you mean. It's fine.
yeah, it's more difficult now, or like sometimes I still get a bit shy authority wise,
Mm.
but then I just be like, okay, I'm just gonna speak to this teacher and I'm gonna hang out with them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, very strange. But also, yeah, I'm glad that it's not just me. Um, but yeah, so going into school, like what was
Mm.
school like for you? I know that you just said it was a lot of kind of trying to be be perfect and trying to get the
Yeah.
grades. Yeah.
Um, I would say school was difficult for me because I didn't quite get what I wanted or looked for from the social point of view. I wanted to fit in so badly, and I really wanted to get on with other kids and be able to play with them and be able to feel like I was part of that picture.
Mm,
All of that was missing for me, and it was only as I was growing up throughout the years, and I think it got to the point where I was approaching sixth form, actually, that it dawned on me that I actually didn't really want it because I wanted it. I wanted it because other people said is the right or
mm,
adequate or the natural thing to want. I was actually quite content being left to my own devices, either with schoolwork or, spend the break at school maybe reading a book or scribbling in one of my journals. Um, I was a very quiet kid, and I still am a very quiet adult. And although I benefit from being around other people and
mm,
being with my friends and with my loved ones, I needed a lot of time away from those social um, activities to recharge, to be in my own company. Um, I also at school, therefore, enjoyed loads. Working by myself, working independently, not really working in a group work setting or doing
mm-hmm,
your regular run of the mill teamwork. I really struggled with teamwork. I found it quite difficult to get my own ideas across or be able to gather everyone's efforts into feeding into one direction, which would
mm-hmm,
be um, whatever it was that we needed to achieve as a group. Could be a group project, could it be a presentation, whatever. So I struggled with the desire to kind of do as everyone else was doing, but also accepting that I felt quite unnatural and uncomfortable, and then wanting to be by myself and do things my own way. School was also incredibly, in hindsight now, hindsight is
mm-hmm,
2020. Um, I found it very overstimulating being in school. It was all um, very loud. Everyone was talking, jumping from subject to subject, kind of hour by hour, because
mm,
that's the system that I was sort of educated in. It was all quite a lot, having to comply to different expectations from different teachers, and having to kind of do everything right. For me, there was also the incentive of wanting to move to the UK to study for at university level and then get a job here and live here. So it was very important for me to get good grades and do well, because to me that was the path to take to be able to
mm-hmm.
move out of there and move over here. There was a lot of pressures looking back now. I'm gonna be like, oh my god, I was so young and dealing with all of this. Like all
Yeah.
of this feels very difficult compared to what I have to deal with now as an adult.
Yeah, when did you decide to move to the UK? Or was that just something that was kind of like installed in you like while you were growing up?
It wasn't instilled at all. I think my parents would rather me be in Romania still, actually.
Uh-huh.
They definitely try hard to convince me to not move over here. I think it's a combination of things for me. I learned English from a very young age, and I really enjoyed the language. And as a result, I was very curious about the place where the language was spoken. Um, on the other hand, I feel that not fitting in had played into um, me wanting to move away. And it just so happened that the UK was an accessible option because I knew the language, and I could fit in more easily as a result of that. Um, I felt that within Romanian society, I didn't really belong. There was very little I found understanding of space for expressing myself as a
Okay.
person, as a neurodivergent individual, as someone who, despite struggling to understand others, holds a lot of emotions of my own and can be quite sensitive and quite expressive in how I let those emotions and those thoughts out. I've always been described as a very like my mother calls me feisty, which is interesting because at the same time, I feel that I've had to mask a lot of my emotions growing up. So this combination of both being quite feisty, I suppose, and also
Mm-hmm.
quite reserved and not really wanting to share my inner world with other people straight away, made me believe that perhaps there is another place on this planet where I can try and find this. I've certainly found what I was looking for by moving here. Um, and, it might not be a perfect place, but it's the place that works for me.
Yeah, no, that's really nice to hear. One thing when you said the
Mm.
feisty thing, my grandma used to tell my mum that I was a little bit of like a Wolverine.
Oh
Um
gosh. That's
it's
cute though. It's a
I
cute
know
animal.
my grandma and I'm part Chilean, so I'm trying to like
Oh,
translate it and
okay.
I
Yeah.
can't fully remember, but it
Yes.
was like Wolverine something.
Yeah.
So that's just so funny because I definitely have such a disconnect sometimes with like how I like present myself, and then also
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
feel like I have such richness in me that I
Mm.
definitely don't share all the time. So yeah, I find that again very relatable. But that is very so interesting to hear, and I find it so admirable, like having such a goal at
Oh,
such a young
cheers.
age.
That's very
Yeah.
kind.
And like, like you said, there's just in school, I struggle a lot with like context switching, and with
Mm.
school you're doing
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
much of that on top of everything else. Yeah, a school is just overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah, very overwhelming. And I think, looking back now, the size of the expectations that were placed on me, and I would only assume continue to be placed on
Mm,
people in school nowadays, is, as far as I'm concerned, out of proportions and a little bit out of this world. One thing that surprised me the most in relation to teamwork and connecting to others and talking to other people in order to deliver something to do a project at school or do a project in the workplace like what I do
hmm.
now. um, I feel that what was at school was infinitely more difficult than what working with people in a corporate environment is like right now.
Mm,
And the I believe as children, there is also this push to do it. I believe in a very well intentioned attempt to get us to talk to other people
yeah.
and learn how to work with others. And the intention, 100%, it should be there. The delivery, I just don't really know whether that works in practice how it is right now, or it certainly didn't work when I was
Mm,
in school. It was quite counterproductive, and then I ended up working in an office, and I was basically being like, nothing I've done at school prepared me for it, like literally nothing, and I have to start from scratch anyway.
yeah, yeah, I found group work very hard because, like you said, it's a mismatch of people, and often
Yes,
you're left with the people who didn't really want to do the work. Or like when we were speaking a couple of weeks ago, it's like once you have a reputation to be the one that brings the work together and like
it
does
follows
it,
you.
it follows you. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that definitely made me so jaded and so like exhausted every time there was group work, but it is so useful, especially if socializing doesn't like naturally come to you. I think
Yeah, yeah.
there's something in there. It just needs to be reworked in some kind of way. Yeah.
Mm, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. It's interesting because that's one of the bits that eventually convinced me um, that I should look to talk to a specialist about potentially being neurodivergent.
Mm,
It was the fact that socially I struggled quite a bit to navigate personality differences. And I also struggled to carve out my role in and amongst all of these personality differences and finding a path that felt honest for
mm,
who I am, instead of immediately trying to fit a mold or mold myself onto others. That was something that I tried loads as a child that I still feel tempted to try as an adult. And there is value to adapting
hmm
and to listening to others and to make choices based on what this world is giving you in terms of a message. Um, However, I found that this should never be done at the detriment of who you are, because who you are is good,
mm,
and accepting who you are is also the I found a path. It was a path for me to discovering a lot of the strengths to my neurodivergence as well. For instance, the fact that I am so um, organized and so my attention to detail is so sharp, and I can very easily focus on path forward, which then allows me to problem solve
hmm
quite quickly and efficiently. So, actually, over the weekend, because we are talking about the weather right before we started this, our
You
trains back
solved the
from
transport system. Yippee!
I I wish it's not gotten to that point yet, but let's not rule anything out. It could very well happen in the future, and then um, I mean, a lot of people will probably be grateful that it would happen. But no, I only saw this transport situation for my partner and I on our way back from York, where we were over
hmm
the weekend, when trains were getting cancelled left, right, and centre, and
Yep.
it was interesting how. For him, um, it was very much oh, this is awful. How are we going to kind of deal with this? And it was obviously a stressful situation, but my mind went straight into, okay, how do I solve this? And
hmm
it was um, a little bit interesting because I was with friends at the time and I was not listening to any of the conversation that was going on around me. I was ripped away from the world. I was in a
hmm
world of my own, but quickly managing to get tickets for another train and getting all of that sorted, and it all kind of was over in about 5 or 10 minutes. Um, I managed to secure a train back to London. I was gonna make it into work the next day, but again, it was very much me detaching from everything else and going straight to
Mind
it. So
Palace. Yeah.
exactly, very much going into a mind palace, or at least that's what I say to make myself feel a bit cooler about sorting out something very
I think it's
adult
very
like.
cool. Don't worry.
Thank you. I tried, and I won this time around. But yeah, I think I found it so much more rewarding to me and to others too, to
Mm,
where I work and to my relationships with others, to focus on those strengths and garner those strengths. And of course, there will be certain things that I might be finding more challenging because of my neurodivergence, but that is okay
mm.
because we all have our own strengths and drawbacks, and that's the beautiful thing about it. They make us who we are.
Yeah, no, I think that's really lovely. And it's something that I still kind of struggle with. Definitely like chameleoning. I need to stop trying to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Chameleoning around me. That's something I struggle with. And then it's also, I think I've dampened a few things about myself just because, like, when you're a bit too much of a stickler to details, people tend to be
Yes,
like,
yeah.
go with the flow is totally fine. And I'm just there like, we had a plan. I did this. I had these bullet points. I did it. And they're like, just show up. And yeah, it's definitely something that I struggled with. And sticking to your guns and, knowing
Mm.
what makes you comfortable. Yes, leaving some room for like life, but it's
Yes, of
definitely,
course.
there's like a balance in there, and I think it's,
Yes, for sure.
it's a journey. But yeah, I really like hearing about it because it helps kind of like fill my own kind of like inner gremlin that needs order and structure. Um, and in terms of what other things you're good at, how did you kind of, like you said, growing up, you had a lot of kind of some
Mm,
coping mechanisms and like
yes.
ways to kind of keep yourself occupied. What were they? And like, yeah, just tell me more about that.
Um, Quite a few. Um, I have always really enjoyed writing
Mm,
because I've referred to writing earlier in our conversation. Um, to be honest, can't even remember when it actually started. I must have been fairly young. I want to say maybe 8 or 9 because I really enjoyed reading and watching cartoons. And really, I believe the commonality to these two was storytelling. I enjoyed
mm-hmm,
stories. I enjoyed not just the structure of beginning, middle, and end, but being able to get to a lesson or to something interesting or new,
mm,
or some form of growth at the end. Um, I've really always liked that. So it was only a matter of time until after watching a load of cartoons and reading a load of books, be like, okay, it's time to try my own, doing my own.
uh-huh.
And I've been writing ever since, and it's both something that I hope to do as a career in the future, but it's also something that's remained as a hobby and a passion outside of my career all this time. And it's also been very therapeutic for me as child that didn't really show a lot of herself and what she was
Mm,
feeling to other people. Putting it on the page was a real lifesaver.
mm,
um, I would be writing it, talking about it. I would be explaining it in there rather than with other people, and it helped me feel understood at a time when really I didn't quite
hello, sorry about that. I got booted
oh, you're
off.
all good. I
Carry on.
just carried on telling you about
It
how
was
writing
lovely
made
to
me.
hear.
I'm sure whatever it was that I said was very wise, but I was just saying, just to catch you up as well, writing helped me feel understood, and that was so important to me because I didn't feel understood by other people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was only a matter of time from that storytelling and kind of story following perspective until I started playing video games. This is a huge passion of mine, stayed a passion of mine throughout the years. And I've kind of managed to find a lot of people to spend time with and talk to and make real connections with through writing, reading,
Mm-hmm.
video games, um, and is to this day is helping me kind of cope, is something to look forward to at the end of the day. um it's 27 years now and I still love them. I bet there will be 27 more and I'll still love them. I don't really see it changing anytime soon,
No.
frankly.
Absolutely. I view video games as like a universal language at this point. I find
Mm,
it, growing up, it would be my way of like trying to fit in. Like I'd learn
that's
what
right.
games people liked and like know a little bit about it. I think it's the same probably as like sports or something.
Mm,
And yeah, now it's my way of kind of getting people together and keeping in contact. Like I
yeah.
play I play games pretty much every day, just trying to, yeah, get friends together. And it's just such a I like films and games, and those are both ways of
Mm,
getting into a different world, same as writing. And I
yes,
think
yeah.
it's such a healthy way to explore things, and such a also healthy way of like exploring emotions,
True.
and relating to other people as well, for sure. Big
Hmm.
fan of video games.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite video games, or ones that you've been
Oh.
playing recently? I don't want to put you on the spot with that.
Oh, I mean, I can respond. I can talk about both, to be honest. And I'm gonna try to like rein it in because I could
Hmm.
really go there. My favorite game series is Fallout. Um, it's an interesting one for me to mention because I'm conscious that it's quite. It has a heavy set of topics at its center.
Hmm.
It's essentially about the world ending, which is a very depressing topic, but it's a topic that's helped me for on a therapeutic level because it's one of my biggest fears. Like it's a
Mm,
phobia of mine to think about a world ending. So to be able to see it in a game and be able to make choices in a game that happen in that environment has helped me almost like exposure therapy to it. But it's also got
radiation
like,
exposure therapy, yes.
yeah, literally, no pun intended, right there. But it's also it's interesting because it's got quite a lot of humor to it when you look into the writing and the story. It can be quite dark humor, but it's humor nonetheless. And humor is also something that's helped me process pretty much anything. I enjoy
Hmm.
having a good laugh. Um, so those are my favorite games, but I do hesitate to like recommend them to people because it can be a quite sad topic, but also there are quite a few games and it's a huge time investment, and I
Mm.
played a lot of them while I was in school and university. It's a lot harder to sit down and properly play a game now when I have to work a job and be an adult.
Ugh.
One game that I can't ever get enough of, and it's really been a lifeline for me during the pandemic, and I've played recently, I've started a new server with friends, is Minecraft.
Hmm.
I absolutely adore Minecraft. The possibilities are endless. And one of my favorite things is getting new friends of mine to play Minecraft because they're always surprised. The character always dies and races in very stupid ways. It
Yeah.
sounds really mean. I am laughing at them a little bit, but I'm also laughing at myself because I know just how like terrified I would be playing that on survival. And another game which I would say I played recently and really enjoyed is called Unpacking, and is a game where the main character moves from each level is like moves home every time a new level starts, and you get to
Hmm.
unpack all of her belongings and put them in her new room or house when she does move into a house. And the belongings tell you the story of what happened to that person since they've moved house. Is a very calm game which you can't win or lose. You can put the possessions in any way you want around the house. It can be quite messy. It can be quite neat,
Mm.
and also the music is just so cute. And I find it to be I find it to be a very relaxing game, and also quite emotional game at times, especially when like the main character kind of goes from school to university to like an adult life. You get to see their whole like life, and I think of my own life and that makes me
Hmm.
quite emotional. But yeah, these are, I guess, my top three recommendations, so to speak.
I've still been meaning to play. I mean, I need to also play a lot more Fallout, but Unpacking has been
Mm,
coming out quite a lot. And I feel
yes,
like it also touches on some what do you call it, LGBTQ themes as
it
well, I think.
does. It
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
Yes, I believe the main character. This is a bit of a spoiler. I feel bad saying it, but I think the main character, like, sort of explores their own life, and they are part of the LGBT plus community, and it is hinted quite heavily through their possessions that that's the case. But also is someone that struggles with chronic illness and disability, which
Oh
again does
wow.
not nearly get enough like exposure
Mm,
throughout the game, throughout culture and games in general. So to get that and to be able to see how you end up kind of with like hot water bottles or like a cane and all of these things to just be so naturally slotted into the game, I found it to be a very positive
mm.
illustration of an experience that you would otherwise not really come across unless you live it yourself or is being shown in pieces of culture that can help you better understand that experience.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that about that. And I love that game. You're basically putting the pieces of the story together yourself.
Yeah,
It's not like explicitly telling you, right? That's so
very much
interesting.
so. Very much so. It's the kind of game which I've played through a couple of times, but there's a very real possibility there's secrets in there I have not yet gotten to.
Mm,
And I like that because it feels new. It doesn't feel repetitive, but it's just repetitive enough for it to feel quite calming. Whenever I have a particularly tough day at work or I am stressed with things in my own personal life, I know that I can go back to that game and
hmm.
have a great time without being a bit like, oh, this is boring. I've done it a couple of times already. Yeah, I haven't had any of that yet.
Or I guess that yeah, some puzzle games like they're cute and they're relaxing, but they're so difficult. A little to the
Yeah,
left. sometimes it's too difficult and I just want to relax. So yeah, then
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
definitely on my list now. I'll have a look at it later. But
same. Yeah, like
um
with escape games, for instance, I'm a huge fan of escape games. When I say
mhm,
same, I'm like, it's because there are times when the escape game is too difficult for me and I can't escape and I get frustrated. I'm like, this is not what I was looking for.
mhm.
Let's step back, play something else where I feel like I've got
Unpacking.
control. Yeah, like unpacking. I can control the unpacking. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'll make a note of that. One
Oh,
thing that I'm
definitely.
curious about, especially, like you have experiences with autism and you're doing so
Yes.
many things, like you're doing quite a lot. And I feel like,
Mhm.
like you said, you have a lot of laser focus on things and just it's a lot of project management, a lot of like balancing plates.
That's right.
Um, how how do you kind of manage like burning out or kind of even when plans don't go to plan? Like how do you kind
Yeah.
of go about that?
Um, First of all, completely recognize that it indeed feels like a lot to balance all at one point, and
Hmm.
because I'm human, just like everyone else, I have myself reached burnout on a couple of occasions, and I do believe that as a neurodivergent individual, I am susceptible to certain types of burnout more than others. In my case, um, I know that there's only so long I can go talking to people until I reach a point where my social battery is drained or
Mm,
running on low, and I could either carry on as if that hasn't happened and risk burning out, or I could take a step back and take the space that I need to replenish that energy. Um, and one of the key tricks for me has been finding the right point where I can stop and say, I've had enough of this.
mm,
Let's step back and breathe and recover, essentially. Um, and I had to burn out a couple of times to actually be able to tell where
mm,
that point, where I reached that point. Um, is happened on a couple of occasions, namely around my A levels prior to moving here to the UK for university, as well as at work. Most recently, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 months ago.
hmm,
Um, and I feel that with navigating this was helped quite a bit was, first of all, mitigate the guilt
mm,
around burning out. A big one for me is looking in the mirror and saying, it's okay that you burned out. It wasn't your fault,
hmm,
but we are taking responsibility over what we do next to deal with that. Um, in my case, that's involved learning to say no to things, being open and honest with the people in my life. Could it be my superiors at work? Could it be people in my family, in my immediate group of friends? Acknowledging, saying, yes, I'm having a bit of a difficult time right now,
hmm,
and this is what would help me deal with that difficult time. Um, with work, that could have been taking up certain projects rather than others, dropping some of the stuff that I had on my plate. Um, there are always other people that can help do that. Um, and in my own personal life, um, again, kind of reducing the number of plans I would make with other people,
mm,
or making those plans a little bit more manageable, perhaps not an entire weekend with my friends, but maybe just a day or an afternoon, and kind of going from there. And with the new time that I suddenly have on my hands, a lot of rest.
mm.
um, I'm a big advocate of naps,
Love a
doing
nap.
things that you enjoy. In my case, this could also be exercise, going on a walk, doing like a dance workout, um, all of the stuff that I enjoy, plus getting some movement in and resting whenever my body tells me to. That's what's helped. And then it takes time sometimes. It won't be a case from a day to another you're recovered. It's taken me, days, weeks, and
Mm,
learning to just accept that and take it as a sign of my body's just told me I need to do something differently for the next little while, and that's okay. Believe it or not, the planet keeps on spinning, stuff still gets done. Um, Although we are important people, each and every one of us, we're not the be all and end all. Without us, the
mhm.
system won't break.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's so important. It's such a tricky thing to recognize when you're burning out or like in burnout.
Yeah.
Um, I think there was quite a while where I was just like surviving day to day.
Mm,
And I think it's important then to recognize when that's happening or if possible, like stopping it beforehand because otherwise you'll just kind of be kind of like I don't know how to metaphorically say it, but like tripping over yourself quite a lot
yeah,
where
quite a
think you
bit.
have a lot more energy and then suddenly you don't and you're drained again. And I think, yeah, just recognizing that and it's not a bad thing. And one thing that we mentioned when we last spoke was sometimes you may be having such a great time and that's good, but you
Yeah.
still have to listen to your body, which is very
Mm,
annoying and difficult. But yeah, it's social battery is something that I still often don't fully pick up until I'm like fully drained and suddenly I'm like on my phone, just like not speaking to anyone.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I don't know what it's been like for you, but it's definitely been the case for me. And to be honest, talking to other people as well in here or in Romania or whatever, um, this doesn't really get taught at any point how to listen to your body. And even if we try to teach it, it will look differently
Mm,
for different people. And the although it's quite frustrating to have to listen to your body or to even learn how to listen to your body. I What helped me was try to make it into a bit of try to make it as fun as I could
mhm,
and reframe it a little bit. Not like a chore, like having to take the trash out because that's the chore that I hate the most. But just try to think of it as I get to learn about myself. Like
mm,
that's quite interesting because I personally like learning, and I think we spoke about it about like did we speak about it? I can't remember who I spoke to about it, but I one thing I'm really into is Wikipedia rabbit holes. If I find a topic that think is super interesting or I'm really curious about it, I go on Wikipedia and I just like read about it.
mhm.
Um, and I'm trying to like garner the same enthusiasm that I have Wikipedia rabbit holes into myself. Like try to go into rabbit hole into myself. It
Gamify
doesn't
it for sure, yeah.
yeah, it doesn't sound as interesting, but I'm trying to make it sound more interesting for my sake, because I have to do it anyway, so I might as well try to make it fun.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's such a good way of looking at it. And sometimes I really enjoy learning like personality types and like all of that stuff. And I have a lot of kind
Hmm.
of like what do you call it, just interest in that about myself,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
surely I should bring that into other aspects of like energy management. And yeah, we have two questions which are kind of
Okay,
related, so I want to touch on them.
of
One
course.
of them is planning to rest sounds really hard. I only ever think of resting when I'm tired from doing something. Do you have
Hmm.
any tips to make sure you leave time to rest?
Yes, I hope it won't sound too organization geek, but I am an organization geek, so I'll just embrace it. It's not um unusual for me whenever I look at the week ahead. In my case, that week will involve working 5 days a week and then the weekend, um, plus any plans I make with people around that. Um, I look at the week and try to find pockets of time pretty much as often as I can
Mm,
where I can take that break and I can um, reserve that time for me. And I when I say I plan these pockets of time, I don't actually plan to do anything during them. It's very much a me time, empty time that I can do whatever I feel like doing whenever I get to that point. um in my case, for instance, so obviously we're Tuesday now. I actually have a pretty busy week ahead of me. I'm obviously doing this evening, but I'm seeing friends on Thursday. I'm off to Birmingham to see a concert on
oh,
Friday.
what concert?
It's Charlie XCX.
Okay, okay. Sorry, carry
Yeah,
on.
yeah, it's quite out of the left field. But I know that it's going to be quite an intense, kind of overwhelming experience. And then on Saturday, I'm going to go. My sister is over in London from Romania, so I'm going to see her for the day. Therefore, I know that like the windows of time I have on the train, is going to be very much noise cancelling headphones with some music or just with white noise,
Mm,
reading, maybe even getting a quick snooze if I can. But it will be like time for me where I'll try my very best to kind of be by myself and just really recharge. Sunday as a day will be completely to myself. And I kind of more or less, the only thing I'll probably do is do the Christmas decorations, which is a bit of a chore. But again, after that, it will be like the entire day by myself. So trying to like find a focus of time and sticking to them as if you're sticking to an appointment. Like
mhm.
think a GP appointment. You wouldn't want to mess around your GP and cancel that appointment. Similarly, don't cancel that appointment with yourself. There will
Mm,
be times when you might, and that's okay. Is acceptable. Try, I guess, to have that time to yourself as much as possible. And I found that if I space it out and I put it into my schedule as much as possible, I'm less likely to get to that point where rest becomes it's either rest now or burnout. And for instance, the 2 weeks before today, I've been again quite busy, so now I know,
mhm.
oh, I'm approaching that point where I'm going to feel very tired. Okay, what do we do to kind of make that as easy on me as possible?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's such a good way of putting it, and it's something that I definitely need to do a bit more as well. It's um like actively taking time for yourself rather than being like,
Yeah,
okay, I have like, I don't know, 10 minutes before my next club, before my next meeting.
yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely there's a difference between like what is it, like self-maintenance and self-care. There's something there where
yes,
one
yeah,
of them
yeah,
is something that you do whatever, like you may have a shower, you may brush your teeth, you may go outside, and then there's other things that you choose to do like coloring, playing games, listening to music, and those things
mhm,
like feed you and your energy.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hope that answered your question.
Hopefully,
Yeah. This one I think you might like and may take up the rest of our time. But
you
what's
reckon?
a fun what's a fun rabbit hole you went into recently?
Oh my God. Oh, there's actually a few. Oh goodness. So I'll probably say uh two, and they're very kind of like random.
Okay.
Um, and one was self-prompted, and then the other one was very much prompted by my partner because he didn't know about it. So I was like, I'm gonna look it up and tell him about it as much as possible. I'll start with that one because that's actually funnier, I think. Um, so have you ever heard of low stake conspiracy theories?
Low stake conspiracy. What, like kind of
Yeah,
like
like very silly
pizza.
ones
Okay,
that
no, no, no. I haven't heard of any low stake ones.
yeah. So low stake conspiracy theories is a forum online where people come up with conspiracy theories, but they are like so low stakes that they are just they do not determine in any way, shape, or form society. You know, when you hear conspiracy theories, usually quite dramatic, quite um, unusual,
Hmm.
and it requires, I think, a level of dedication, and it's always under the impression of, oh, there is something beyond what we see that we're not aware of. Low stake is just downright silly, and people come up with these things almost like shower thoughts and then sharing them with
Yes.
others. And my partner is also very kind of social media savvy, but he always is on the apps that I'm not on.
Hmm.
So I tend to be quite a bit on Reddit, and I just read
I do
whenever.
love Reddit.
Yeah, just like read anything that people write on there. And I find it interesting to kind of almost take the pulse of the world or just find experiences from people from around the world that I would have never had myself.
Hmm.
Um, and he's discovered this kind of low stake. Oh, is there such thing as a forum for low stake conspiracy theories? And I was
There's a
like,
form for everything.
yes, there is. Yeah, first of all, that's what I said. There's a forum for everything. How dare you ask me that? And then secondly, okay, I'm talking about some like really like silly ones, and it would be like, I don't know, Subway sandwiches. How many slices of cucumber people put in a Subway sandwich? And apparently, there is a low stake conspiracy theory that there's a guide on how much you can put of each ingredient, and no more and no less.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I said, this is what I mean by low stake. It's a thing that people seem to believe, but really, it doesn't have an actual big impact on anyone's life, but it's funny to think that that might be the case. So that's one rabbit hole I went on, and then I was showing my partner quite a bit of like, look, this is one conspiracy, this is another one. I just thought it was funny that people thought about all of
Mm-hmm.
these things at the same time. um and then the second one, I was just watching Family Guy one day because
Uh-huh.
I really enjoy cartoons still. And I thought I'll just gonna look up every single thing that the creator of Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane, has ever done in his career. And
Uh-huh.
then I learned that he did a web series, like a web internet cartoons for free to watch on YouTube, and how they look exactly like Family Guy, but because he was doing so much of the Family Guy work at the time, and he was just thinking about that show that he was making all of the time, he didn't actually have that many interesting ideas left for this cartoons online.
Oh.
And now, whenever he's asked about it in interviews, he's very embarrassing. He's like, I should have never signed up to do it because I used all of my good ideas from Family Guy, and now there are 50 episodes of just really like below average humor out there. And again, I then proceed to go to YouTube and kind of look that up. I do
Mm-hmm.
a lot of like finding stuff on Wikipedia and finding stuff on YouTube. You
Sleuthing.
did you have Nickelodeon when you were
No, I
younger?
didn't.
Is
No.
it like an American thing? I think it
I think
is.
it's predominantly American thing,
Okay.
but yeah, it is
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, anyway, I didn't know about it until I moved to the UK. Heard it might be American, but maybe it was here as well. I didn't quite
Mm.
know. But I used to do this series in the 90s called Nick at Night, which was basically cartoons, but up until from 8 p.m. until like 11 p.m. or midnight, and then it would just stop altogether. And it was the same cartoons, but it would just do like, oh, this is like the night cartoons, but it was no difference. And it would have
Uh-huh.
like a lot of jingles. Um, Oh, I think someone's just said that they also had Nickelodeon, so I don't feel crazy for now saying Nickelodeon. There you go. But they would just do a lot of different jingles, and you can find compilations online of the jingles from this Nick at Night series. And one
Uh-huh.
day I was just like, made myself a cup of hot chocolate and just watched an entire hour compilation. Because why not? I enjoyed
Why not?
myself. It was very relaxing, and they were all all the jingles had really quite funny rhymes to it. Like you could tell that they really thought about them. They weren't just like mass generating this
Mm-hmm.
pretty low quality music and lyrics. So yeah, that's another rabbit hole for you. I
I
mentioned three.
absolutely love that. Did you know that I'm gonna call him Seth because I can't whatever his name is.
Yeah,
He
it's
has a
fine.
Christmas album, like a
He
jazzy
does have
Christmas
a
album.
Christmas album. I learned that during my Wikipedia rabbit hole, and then the rabbit hole showcased to me that he's in a TV show on Disney Plus, The Orville, which I've now been watching. I'm on like episode 7,
I haven't
and
watched it yet. It looks
I'm
good.
a huge like space fan. I love space stuff, like Star Trek, Star Wars. I'm a huge Futurama fan. You can't see it
Mm-hmm.
right now, but I have Futurama themed earrings. I've got a Leela and a Fry earring. I got them
Oh,
over the
that's so
weekend.
fun.
I'm so chuffed with them, and I was really sad no one mentioned them at work. But it's okay. I'll get over it. And yeah, it's a good show for that reason alone. I think it's like a space stuff. If you're into space stuff,
Mm-hmm.
definitely worth watching. But yeah, you're right. He does have a Christmas album. I'm sorry it wasn't something that I didn't know.
No, next time I'll find
Next time
something.
you'll find a fact and then prompt another Wikipedia rabbit hole on my end, which I'm very grateful for. Always open to those.
Okay, okay, I'll have things. I know that people play. I need to get back to the topic at hand, but I know that people play
Yes.
games where it's like how far down a rabbit hole you can go and stuff like that. Very fun. Um,
Yeah.
okay, we have like 10 minutes left, so if anybody has any more questions for Tanya, please go ahead and ask them. In the meantime, let me see where I'd like to continue going. Um, I think kind of just continuing talking about passions would be pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
How I know, how do you like find the things that you like doing? Like, like some of it came from, again, we've mentioned like your kind of survival thing when you were younger. How do you kind of find things?
Um, One thing that's helped me, especially as someone who wasn't socially connecting to other people in real life at
Mm,
school, especially, was to kind of be online. And I feel very sheepish about making this suggestion because I know that it's quite easy to be online these days, and sometimes I am online past a point that probably is helpful for me. It's very
hmm
easy to scroll, it's very easy to consume content. I felt that for me at the time because it was, I don't know, late noughties, early 2010s. Uh, the internet was this very much golden age where it was very easy to just put it down and kind of move away and live my life,
Mm,
but then come back to it for entertainment, for connection. And for me, because I did not know anyone who was into the same things as I was into, being online helped to just find people with similar interests. Um, and because you and I have previously spoken about like YouTube and watching YouTube videos, and I found so many people that I could just like talk to about this interests of mine.
hmm
A good example, actually, because I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan. And I'm a
I
fan
can
of
see the
music in
cardigan.
general. Oh yes, I've got a cardigan. Oh my gosh, yeah, I've got two of them now. I rewarded myself for my birthday with one of them. Um,
Nice.
yeah, because I was like the only person in my school that admitted to liking Taylor Swift.
hmm
I didn't really have anyone to talk to about these topics. And so I was on Tumblr a lot, just sharing concert recordings on, 360p quality because
hmm
phones back then were not very advanced. So kind of doing that, but also I feel like it was very helpful that it was done quite safely. Like my parents allowed me to be online, but they were also helpful in informing me about how to keep myself safe
mm
and stuff such as do not hand over any of your passwords or personal information. So it was done well for me and it helped, and it gave me, I think, quite a bit of a lifeline at the time being online. Um, and it was a good medium when I didn't find the people that I needed um, in my life immediately. I feel that as an adult, and it'll be interesting to get your view on it as well.
hmm
Um, as an adult, I found that for a while I wasn't making friends easily at all. But then the moment I found the people that were into the same things as I was into, it all became much easier. Um, I feel like being online has helped. Then I'm now like, because I have the people that I want in my life, and I can more easily do things IRL because we're no longer during a pandemic.
hmm
It's definitely helped doing them in person, but being online helped when it did at the time.
Yeah, yeah. I think I mean for me, like I mentioned, I'm in the middle of nowhere, so online
Mm,
is the only people I see other than
yeah,
the
yeah,
people I live
same.
with. Um, but yeah, I think it's so much easier to kind of be yourself sometimes in a safe way.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, like I said, my main way of connecting with people is playing games with them.
Mm,
And it's such an easy way to kind of figure out what games people like, try and suggest that. Yeah, I think that I found making friends as an adult very tricky. I think especially as someone who's neurodiverse because
mm.
not everybody wears their hearts on their sleeves, and
Very true.
there's never a point where somebody's like, we are friends, unless, like I've
Yeah,
gotten way too comfortable being like, we are friends now because I
yeah,
wish
yeah.
somebody would do that more to me. Yeah, it's very tricky, and I think, it's tricky growing up with it. It's tricky. Friends are tricky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tricky. It totally is tricky. I feel there is a little bit of like luck involved.
Mm,
Like you would meet a lot of people, and I've met a lot of people over the years, and we did not stay friends or very close friends because of a whole bunch of circumstances that were largely outside of my control.
Mm,
It is very helpful indeed that I live in London and a lot of my friends live in London or near
mhm,
enough London so we can see each other. But that's again, London has, however many million people outside of, from the entirety of the UK, and then
mhm.
you've got different places will be, kind of different. Um, However, I completely relate to the point around how do you tell when a friendship has become a friendship. I just wish like it would be like
I need a
no,
status bar.
and you're like on Sims when you're like acquaintance,
Yeah.
friend, good friend, best friend. Because I tend to get quite easily attached to friends, and I kind of just want us to be, best friends right away. But it will not necessarily be the rhythm that other people have.
Mhm.
And it it's helped to get to know myself better as well. But also, it's helped accepting that a lot of you can't control because it's down to the
Mm.
other person.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I remember when I was like super little, we were at an airport and some lady asked my mum for the
Some
time, and
lady.
some random lady, um,
Yeah.
some lady asked my mum for the time, and I afterwards I was like, they are best friends. That's how you make a best friend.
Uh,
Just
just
ask
ask
somebody
for
for the time in the airport.
I was gonna say, don't try that in London. I don't think people
Don't.
are gonna respond.
No, no, no. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's one thing. Maybe it's a social cue thing or something where
Mm,
it's very much like tricky. Or maybe and this is kind of related to another question we got to finish with, but
yeah,
uh being friends and like assuming that somebody's your friend is taking a risk.
for
And
true.
I
Yeah.
yeah, and I think having a difficulty reading social cues maybe, and not having kind of not everyone is as comfortable saying that they're a friend. Maybe sometimes they think that it's an assumption thing. Maybe they're not comfortable with it, or maybe they're just not your friend, all of those
Mm,
things. And I think, yeah, it's just something that needs to be more vocalized because it would make it so much easier for me.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
I think I relate to that. And I think actually in relation to that, someone just asked a question, didn't they, about any
exactly.
tips on getting better at taking risks?
Let's go.
Ooh, that's a very good question. Um, I I think I should probably start by saying that I'm actually not a huge risk taker myself.
Hmm.
Um, However, I am trying to become better at it because a lot of the stuff that I'm into, like creative writing or performing, my poetry, involves a lot of risk,
Mm,
which very much is a case of um, a risk of rejection. You could be rejected, or your whatever you create could not be appreciated. I found that what's helped me become more confident with stuff like, for instance, performing at open mic poetry nights has been, um, and this might not necessarily work for you, but it's definitely worked for me. Um, get someone there to support you, to come with you. It helped to get a friend of mine to come with me. Often someone that doesn't know anything about like poetry or doesn't care about poetry helps because
hmm.
you eliminate that risk of them also judging you, so to speak. Um, but just kind of knowing that there's someone there to almost catch you. This might not necessarily work for a lot of people, but it certainly worked for me. And it then get like a night out with friends as well, if you can, out of it. So being vulnerable and being open with people that you find is safe to do so about the vulnerability of taking risks. And
Hmm.
secondly, having a bit of a post risk self care plan in place, not necessarily if it doesn't go to plan, but also because just taking the risk in the first place does take a toll on you. You get that flight or fight response settling in,
Hmm.
and then you have to kind of pull yourself out of that. In my case, a walk with music helps because you kind of shake off that energy. Um, I usually try and plan cooking a meal that I really enjoy for dinner that evening, together with a cup of tea and a good game afterwards, or watching a TV show, doing something that then also takes my mind off the fact that I've just taken a risk. And
Mhm.
also, uh, feel free to just take a couple of days or, however long you need after you've taken the risk before you can revisit again and see whether it's paid off. If it hasn't quite paid off, what you could have done differently. Uh, it's helped me not to jump into reflection straight away, because sometimes you do have to like nurture yourself a bit after you've done something really scary, because you've done something really scary.
Yeah, I think that's such a good answer. I hadn't even thought about having like a post-risk self-care, and it makes so much sense. Just
Maybe I'm just like looking for an excuse for self-care. That's also
maybe,
not a
but now
problem.
I've internalized that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's such a I honestly can't remember a lot of the bad risks that I've taken thinking about it. I'm sure that
Mm,
I can. I'm sure that I could probably look back, maybe I've blocked them out, but I can only I can only
yeah.
think of the good risks that I've taken
Yeah.
recently. And I think one thing, maybe I'm not sure how to verbalize this properly, is kind of uh, congratulate yourself and like
Yeah.
sometimes it's a weird thing to say, but sometimes and maybe it's just me having the brain of a grown up now, sometimes just treat yourself like you're your own parent, or like you're looking
Mm,
after
yeah.
yourself, and
No,
like
I
just
agree with that.
give a little pat on your head. You did a good job. Um, One thing that I have repeated a few times, and I know that some other people from other role model talks have said, I always find it, if a risk doesn't go well, or if like something you've tried doesn't go well, it is a funny story, so long as like nobody got hurt, you didn't get hurt. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and I find that very fun to just then tell somebody,
Mm,
I can't think of a funny story right now, but like uh, I fell up some stairs and there was a
mm.
lift of people that watched me, but you know what? That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once you post out of it. So yeah, I think just kind of being kind to yourself and having some humor when you're kind of thinking about things. And I definitely agree with you, kind of not evaluating things straight away, because
Mm,
I know that I at least would attach some negative emotions to some things, when maybe it isn't as
same.
negative as you originally think. Yeah. I swear I had one other thing to say about that. Just with some risks, just kind of evaluate beforehand whether it's a good risk or a bad risk, and then kind of act
Pros and
accordingly.
cons.
Yeah, pros and cons as well. But sometimes, yes, sometimes stuff that is scary feeds you and is
Mm,
propelling you forward. I think because
yeah.
it's just making you, it's just like character building in some way. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I always say with my friends whenever something doesn't quite go to plan. It's character building.
it's character
It's just
progression.
it's part of
Yeah,
the plot. You did it for the plot.
exactly.
Um, but I mean, if it helps, every single thing that scared me, like frightened me, and I have not regretted it. But I would
Mm,
have certainly regretted not doing it. Although, yeah, a pro and con list, I'm always a fan, but then I'm a fan of lists in general, so that doesn't say
listen.
much.
I love a list. Yeah, yeah. I think even just getting up on stage, like you, like I really enjoy singing, and at school I got up on stage one time to sing. And yes, it was very scary. I didn't love it. But at the same time, that's something that I think I'd look back on and wish that I had if I hadn't tried that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, and I think it feeds into a couple of other role model sessions that we've had where people talked about like this helps
Mm,
finding your interest sometimes because you don't know until you try.
for
Um,
sure.
yeah, I hope that that answered your question. And I have just noticed the time. Thank you so much, Tanya, for joining
Of
us.
course. Thank you
Yeah,
so
this
much for
was very
having me.
fun. Yeah,
I had
and
fun as well.
I hope you, for the rest of your busy week, you get the time to relax at some point and have like a nice chill time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think I'm gonna jump on some games later. Not TMI,
Yes.
but yeah. Why the hell not? Let's do that.
Why
Yeah.
the hell not? Yeah. And thank you everybody for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week. This is the last role model session for 2024. And at some point we'll start posting somewhere for 2025. But yes, have a lovely rest of everything. Bye everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.